as it's 9 o'clock, it's 7 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order if that's okay. The first item on the agenda, a public question time. Now, I believe we've got a member of the public with us for a change. So I believe it's Josh, is that right, Josh?
Yes.
Josh, the floor's yours.
Yeah, I run Jam Factory Music School, which is a music school just up New Mill Road, and I wanted to inquire about the possibility of renting out the unit that's vacant in the Gartside building, which would be used for a collaborative project with the Holme Arts Festival and Jam Factory Music School. The idea is to use it to facilitate meetings for local musicians and bands for rehearsal space. We've been looking for a venue that's close to the centre of Holme to use for something like this for a project that we're hoping to get funding for from the Arts Council this year. We're just waiting for the results of our funding bid, but we're hoping to go ahead and still facilitate some grassroots music activity this year, whether or not we get the funding.
Okay. And have you got any idea when that might be from? Or will you search a little bit from the other one?
We were supposed to have the result of the funding bid today, but it's been pushed back to next Monday, so we'll know about the funding from next Monday. Right. We've put 6 dates in the diary for grassroots music concerts for the rest of this year, okay, which is in collaboration with the Civic Hall itself, so we'll be doing gigs in the upper hall, right, on 6 different dates. And we're also hoping to put on some workshops for participants in the grassroots music scheme.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Josh? Councillor Lars?
Have you been in the Gartside building? Do you know that it's like not like a TARDIS?
Only very briefly,
right.
Yeah. So I can't recall exactly how big it is. We had actually already reached out to Holme Parish Church to use the space where Cafe 100 used to be, the youth club, but unfortunately they're not allowed to have any commercial lets on the premises. So we could use that as part of the project, but we wouldn't be able to put any money towards renovating the space or making it better for the use of the building.
How long do you think the project will go on for? Is it like going to be years or months?
Well, the funding is for a 3-year project where we get a fixed amount for 3 separate years in 12-month intervals. So that's the length of the funded project, but we're hoping it'll have greater longevity than that, leading into more things in the future. So this initial building to get the project off the ground could be for a short-term let of just this year, for example, to get the rehearsals started off, and then we'll find more space to move into.
Okay.
Well, you've indicated that you've put somebody into renovating the building, so is that really viable? If it's only for 1 year?
Yeah, the idea of the collaboration with Jam Factory Music School, which is my business, and the Arts Fest is that we're not allowed to spend money from the funding bid on renovating or buying equipment or anything like that to improve a building. We're only allowed to put that money towards facilitating sort of activities within the project and putting on concerts. So from my commercial business point of view, I would be putting the money in from the Jam Factory side to run it as a business, renting out rehearsal space to bands locally, as well as helping it to benefit the Arts Festival project side.
Okay.
So yes, I can put money into renovating the building to make it suitable.
I'm not sure if you just said this. What times a day would your rehearsals be?
Tends to be evenings up to about 9 o'clock at night.
Okay.
But it also depends on the bands themselves and the musicians, because a lot of them are semi-retired or retired people who are in bands who are freer during the day. So I get inquiries at Jam Factory quite a lot from people wanting to rent space to rehearse, and they can be at all times of day.
Yeah, can I suggest that Josh makes arrangements with somebody wanting the planting team and maybe goes and has a proper look at the Gartside building and then maybe come back, you know, with a proposal then if he does want
That's what I was going to suggest. I think it's... Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, because obviously if you haven't seen it properly yet, you don't know whether it's going to be suitable or not.
Yeah,
so
sure.
that would be my suggestion.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. If you want to leave yourself with the lovely lady at the end, Gemma,
Yes.
one of the clerking team will be in touch with you, so you can have a proper look and decide whether or not it would be suitable.
Okay, great.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Josh, we've been in touch before about this here, haven't we?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I've got your details.
Right.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you.
Josh.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Well, this is not a jam session. Right, can I, please, before we start, can I just remind everybody, show respect to each other. If you need to speak, put your hand up, I'll acknowledge that I've seen you. And if you can, try and hold any side discussions to the minimum while other people are speaking, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, recording a public meeting. As usual, we're going to make a recording. Is there anybody else who wishes to make a recording of the meeting? Please. Okay, everybody okay with that? All right, items that we feel need to be heard in private session.
There's been a suggestion for 2526186 learning points.
Yeah.
The feedback from the starting meeting.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Can you just take a vote on it?
Everybody okay with hearing that item in private session? Okay. Okay, apologies and reasons for absence. I believe there are only two.
Yes, so these have gone out in advance for Councillor Culling and Councillor Fenwick.
Thank you. Receipt of written.
You need to take a vote.
Oh yes, sorry. Everybody
Sorry.
okay with the reasons behind those?
And also to consider Councillor Pat Colling's request to approve granting her dispensation for up to 6 months with regards to council business and meetings while she recovers.
Everybody okay with that? Thank you. Okay, item 165, receipt of written declaration of pecuniary and other interests.
So these were sent out in advance. I'm trying to think who they were for. I haven't written it down. Councillor Whitelaw and Councillor Holme. Yeah.
Okay. Does have to go on that? There's no. Yeah. Okay. Declaration of interest in agenda items and written dispensation. Does anybody have anything to declare regarding the items on the agenda today?
I think possibly the arts festival that I'm a supporter of will come up.
Okay.
Not directly, but indirectly.
Okay.
Can I also declare an interest in item 2526186 learning points? I'll be leaving the room when that item is heard, and Rich will be taking minutes.
Okay. Right, minutes of full council meetings.
So the first one is to approve the minutes of the full council meeting held on the 15th of December, numbered 2526128 to 2526160.
Everybody okay to approve those?
Can I just, have I been dreaming, but did we miss out 162?
No?
Oh, sorry, no, the one after it, to note the correspondence received from a member of the public.
Oh yes, so apologies. I'll go back to 162. And note the correspondence received from a member of the public with regards to the recording of the Holme Valley Parish Council meeting and other matters. That's just from what you've been sent the information in item on the agenda in B, item B.
Can I just comment
Yes,
on that?
Councillor Holmes.
Because I did think it was such an interesting observation and something that I certainly felt that the arrangement doesn't always make for the best discussion. For example, I have no idea who's down this length of the table at all. I can't even see Jen. So I do think it is something we should definitely bear in mind when we get to item 184, the plans for the civic. So I was, I was greatly in sympathy with the member of the public who wrote that letter, email.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes, for bringing that to my attention. Apologies from this one. Councillor Austin?
It's simply to say thank you to the clerk for responding on our behalf.
Yes.
Okay. Back to the full council. Meeting. So the item.
Before I leave that, are there possibly more immediate things we could be doing? Besides, waiting until we get the views,
Councillor Holmes?
which might be years away before.
It's true. Well, I had thought that we could consider and try out how we feel about meeting in the lesser hall. Possibly, I've been looking up a little bit about what would be the best arrangements for seating 25 people. And it does seem that sitting in an oval is the best option. And so if we can, well, as an interim, try the tables in a circle that we've got, and if it works and we're happy with it, possibly buy a purpose-built, obviously that's to be considered, to buy an oval table and meet it in the lesser hall. But that's a suggestion. I think it needs some experimenting with a better arrangement, because I absolutely agree with you, Andy, but I think it might be some time before better arrangements are available.
Gemma?
Just to say that as part of the communications working group, I have started to research sort of at least better audio and possibly positioning some mics down so that we're not just down one end. Some of you are a bit more softly spoken than others, and sometimes it can be a bit hard to pick you up if you sat at the opposite end. Apparently there are other parishes that have got sort of pod things that have got moving cameras in them as well, so I'm going to look into what we can do in this room, and definitely it could be considered to be in a different room as well.
In the meantime, would it be worth moving the phone to that end, because we generally speak facing that way, and the phone can then pick up everybody's voices as well. Because it won't make a difference talking that way and the phone to that side.
I think it's probably likely, because I can see everybody from here as well. If you can't see everybody from that end, it's probably better than behind, isn't it?
Do not be common sense.
Sorry.
Can we consider that suggestion as well, please? Councillor Wilson, do you have your hand up?
It's all right. It doesn't sound-
Right, okay. Okay. Thanks for that. Okay, moving back to the minutes of the full council meetings, and to consider any actions arising.
I don't know if Councillor Morgan wants to say anything about 2526149, the SWIFT boxes. We've been having a little bit of correspondence about that. Are we leaving that, Alison, or did you want to say anything about it?
Well, it's ongoing, because we've got word from the Open Reach people that we can start to put these boxes up, but have no date. So we're purchasing some Swift boxes so that we're ready when they give their time. But we haven't quite organised the payment of it yet, but it's imminent.
Yeah, it shouldn't need another resolution. I think
No.
Councillor Morgan thinks I've just made a mistake with the pricing on the one we got today. So it
I
shouldn't.
didn't, the person in action for Swift.
No, I know. I wasn't implying it was you. It was not.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't mean to.
And 2526154, the design guide. I know some of you have got packs of leaflets in front of you, ready for hand posting, and thank you very much for that. And
If there's any complaints, it's me to blame.
Can I just confirm I've already delivered one to the general but certainly on a more serious note, perhaps. I'm not complaining that I got the biggest pile, I'm just asking about the deadline for getting them delivered. It's open-ended, that's great, because I can't do much in the next fortnight, that's fine.
I mean, just out of interest, I delivered one the other day, and just about to change my shop front, so he was quite pleased to receive it.
And 252647, Packles Bridge, that's gone to the planning committee, and I understand that Gemma has written a letter to Kirklees that's been acknowledged as having been received, but not yet been responded to. Is that right, Gemma?
That's right, yeah.
That's all the matters.
Thank you.
Righty.
Now, moving on to the minutes of standing committee meetings. Firstly, approval of the minutes of the extraordinary staffing committee held on the 5th of January 26.
I'm not sure what to do here. I can either just simply move them, to be approved, or if anyone actually wants to talk about them, it would be better to defer this to the item, was it 184, I think? Not 184, sorry, the one where we're going to look at the learning points, 186.
I think that the point of it being here is just to approve the accuracy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'd like to move that they are inaccurate, it's accurate.
Okay, all those in favour? Thank you. Next, we're approving the minutes of the planning committee meeting held on the 12th of January 2026. All those in favour? Thank you. And finally, to approve the minutes of the finance and management committee held on the 19th of January 2026. Thanks everybody. Now moving on to item 169, standing item, the climate emergency.
And so just to say that on the 15th of December, it was resolved to move this item towards the beginning of the agenda, so that you can put it in your mind when you are viewing all the items that follow.
Anybody got any points you'd like to raise on that, Gemma?
Just to let everybody know that the section that was the climate action on the website is now climate action and biodiversity, following some chats with the Urban Nature Reserve. And some of the information about the Urban Nature Reserves will go into that section of the website.
Thank you, Gemma. Okay. Moving on then, item 170, scheduled payments. Rich?
Just to note, these all of the payments have already been approved by some other means, so it's just a note. If anybody has any questions about any of them, please ask me.
Okay. Approving the precept, item 171.
First of all, I suppose I should apologise to finance. I thought I'd got it so that the committee voted to kind of keep the precept going the same as last year, and I used the spreadsheet to basically do the calculation. What I kind of neglected to consider was that although it said £41.27 on the page, it was actually saying 41.27579, which means that it's impossible to reach the same precept figure as this year using a round pence figure. You can't reach 447,780. So I've created two options for you, obviously. One of them's a penny, one of them's at 41.28, and one of them's at 41.27. The 41.27 is obviously a little bit down on this year's precept, and the 41.28 is a little bit up. I think what finance was trying to do was not increase the precept. So I'll probably bear that in mind. But those are the two options. The only other thing it changes is there's obviously a very slight change to the amount of general reserves that will be available between the two. One of them adds 49,191, and the other one adds 49,300. So you're basically voting on option A is 447,717. That's the one that's gone down a little bit, or 447,826. Option B, which has gone up a little bit.
Can I make a suggestion, having had debates about this before, that we go for option A, the lower amount?
I'd like to second that, please.
All those in favour? Anyone against? Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 172, AGAR 2026.
As you read, this is a new thing that's appearing on the AGAR from this current year, so we're going to have it in place really, or at least to show we're moving forward in it before the audit happens, our internal audit in June and the actual external audit. So NALC, as you see, has produced a model IT policy. It was quite, if you've read it, it's quite wide-ranging. It covers all sorts of stuff, data protection as well as sort of social media stuff. So it's quite broad. And we basically, I mean, I'd appreciate it if we get it in place now, and then potentially look at actually, reviewing it in say 6 months' time. But I'd appreciate it if it's put through now. I don't know if people suggesting any amendments for the policy.
Councillor Blacker.
I did look at this and it has some huge implications for our personal use, of our personal devices.
Yes.
And I think it would mean us using, including our phones of course, and I think it would need quite a lot to actually to implement it really. I feel it would be a big change, and I suppose I would prefer that we have some time to look carefully at it and see what the implications are for us. I mean, obviously the IT equipment belongs to the Parish Council. That's fine. You can set that up, but it's really far-reaching in terms of the way we back things up and so on. It's quite a lot of technical stuff. So I suppose my suggestion is that we will perhaps defer this to F&M or perhaps to a working group to have a look at and just highlight those implications, the more salient implications for local councils using our own equipment.
Just as a sort of related aside, there was a bit of discussion at the last Communications Engagement Committee about whether we might look at other systems for storing our data and putting things together, which I think would be part of that review. So something Don will remember that we talked about using SharePoint and all of that sort of stuff.
Councillor Wilson.
Just echoing what Councillor Blacker said, I think there's some fairly far-reaching bits in here for us as councillors, not so much for the parking staff. For instance, I wouldn't be able to use this laptop. It's out of date and I can't update it.
Right.
It's just making life very difficult, I think. And I hate to sort of have another working group, but I think it's something that we need to do.
So my question then back to Rich is what's the need to try and get this in place as soon as possible?
I mean, I think we really just need to show that we are, we're aware of it and we're making progress in addressing it. I'm not sure. I don't think anybody's going to expect it to be perfect, because there's lots of things that we're in a much better position than most councils. Some councils won't have .gov email addresses, they won't have a .gov website, so we're a lot further advanced than most. So I think it's just having an awareness of what we need to get better at, an action plan of the next stages. So I don't think there's a huge issue with what Councillor Blacker's saying.
Councillor Lyles?
I was just in my former life as a IT engineer. I'm sure Tom does something like that as well. But basically, if we were to go down this route, maybe something cloud-based where we can all sign into something, which means that we don't have to have passcodes and encryption on our own personal devices. It's probably like a better route if that's an option.
I I think there are a number of different options that we could explore, certainly. And I think maybe setting up a working group is the way to go. I do wonder if we can mark this version that you've got as our draft copy, which the working group is going to consider. So if you do get any questions, yes, we have a draft version, but we are working through it to agree the final content.
Yeah.
Is everybody okay with that? Show of hands, please, just to make sure that, yeah. Is that all right, Rich, for now?
Yeah.
So next question is then, if we are going to set up a working group, who would like to be part? Well,
I'm not volunteering.
okay. Is there anybody who is volunteering?
Councillor Ross, I wanted to ask before that last vote. Actually, it's just a comment. Item 9.1.2 on the policy is not grammatical. There's a chunk missing or a chunk in there that shouldn't be there. It says personal use of social networking, social media and chat sites are not should be restricted. So I'm not quite sure what that means.
There are other spaces, other places where there's something gone wrong.
Yeah.
It obviously not only needs consideration as a policy, but it needs proofreading as well.
Yeah.
So up to my last question. Seeing as we're all keen to set up a working group, who would like to be part of that working group? Have we got any volunteers?
Councillor Blacker did suggest that it be referred to FNM.
Oh!
And I suggest that that's where it goes for them to decide how to deal with it.
Can I second that and suggest that F&M volunteer councillors who don't come to F&M to do it?
I don't think we can do the second one, Councillor Lyles, but maybe the first one, yes. So is everybody in agreement? Councillor Holme?
Just think that you need somebody with IT expertise. I mean, it's no good people volunteering. I mean, I think that's why you've not got any volunteers, because we don't feel we have the...
I will look
right,
at
sorry,
it.
am I? Okay, well...
Councillor Green, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I'd be happy for the clerks to just read through it and advise us.
I think it's a little bit more complex than that, really. Tom, do you want to pose a working group?
I'm happy to be in it with somebody if needed. I'm by no means an IT expert. My job title is IT implementation consultant. I'm an expert on the software that I do. I'm not an IT expert. I'm not alright.
I am a European network architect in security and infrastructure.
You are an expert then.
Volunteer to assist you.
I feel I should volunteer.
Good.
Given my PhD in computer science. Can I finish my statement, please?
Yes.
I would like to emphasise that that does not make me an expert.
No better than that.
I will also volunteer, as soon as I work for a bank in IT for 36 years. I understand all about IT security, what we need to have in place to make sure all the data is secure. We've got
Elon Musk is just going to crawl out with the next next.
Hope not.
Is that okay, Tom? You okay with that? Would you like to set up the first meeting?
Yes.
Tom, is it going to clean up public grounds?
Yes, please.
I don't know. I'll sort it out.
Okay,
They do it on Teams.
thank you.
So did you want to put that forward then as a
Proposal,
working
yes.
group consisting of Councillor Dixon, Councillor Osborne, Councillor Lyles and Councillor Kirkby?
Okay, can I propose that? All in favour? Councillor Wilson? I think you should report back to F&M.
It's important.
Councillor Daly?
If you finished on the IT item, I just wanted to make a comment about risk assessment, which is the next bit of this item.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So I'm not wishing to be pedantic here, but I mean, the risk assessment is by definition a live document, and it's always live and always needs reviewing. So I'd be quite, I mean, I've looked through and I think it's pretty much the same as it was last year, as much as I remember that. So I'm quite happy with it as it is at the moment, but I know for a fact
there's going to be some more items added to that. And so I'm assuming that if we're approving today, it can remain open.
Of course, yeah, of course.
So, I think the item, approving the IT policy we've discussed, consider risk assessment for 26-27. We all in agreement with Councillor Balin's view on the way forward in that. Show of hands, please. Thank you. Okay. Moving on. Item 2526 173. Referrals to the monitoring officer. Who wants to give an update on this? Yeah?
Yeah, so it's just as written here. So the monitoring officers team has reported to myself via email that a complaint against named councillors has concluded and has not been upheld. Both the complainant and the named councillors have been informed. One new complaint has been received regarding a named councillor and is in the process of being considered. So that's just to note.
Okay. Moving on, item 174, Home First Town Centre Works updates and oversight. Do you have updates? Councillor Ryland?
Yeah, so I'm a bit of an update. There haven't been any new newsletters since just before Christmas, I think it was. But we did have, the ward councillors had a meeting with a number of Kirklees staff, and they gave us a verbal update. So Damien was there as well. Moses couldn't make it because he was on duty doing some of the work. So where we are now, then Victoria Street and Huddersfield Road and Towngate, I mean, hopefully you'll all agree, look hugely better than before, and having the yellow sort of crisscross block at the bottom of Dunford Road, I can say, confidently say, because I do it on Dunford Road, that has made a difference. And I don't know, I mean, I don't know what people think. It's the traffic seems to be flowing better now that all that work between those three roads has been completed. And they did do it, I mean, they did do a good job and an efficient job, I would say, because they worked overnight just before Christmas, and that was all completed. In terms of Holligate, then as you will all know, Holligate is now closed to traffic, but pedestrians can still go down Holligate. So the shops can still be open. Obviously it's up to them whether they decide to be open at this point in time. Holligate will be closed for a while. I think the final date could be the 13th of March, but it could be quite a lot sooner than that. The work that they need to do now, and I walked down there on Sunday, and they were doing some work on the pavements, and they were widening the pavements, and I think it will look good when it's all completed, because you'll get that sort of cafe feel to it with the widened pavements. They're obviously doing work on the car park. They're going to be building a new bridge across, and then there's obviously quite a lot of work in itself in the car park. In terms of what happens to the car park and its use, then hopefully it will be a multi-purpose space where the festivals can use it. Obviously it's going to be a car park, and also a marketplace, and maybe several markets will be able to use that site then as well. We also talked about the lay-by, which is next to the church and next to Kate's, where at the moment you can park as long as you want, and we suggested to them that it could be limited, so it could be limited to maybe an hour and then not to be able to come back, etc., or half an hour, and that would keep it would keep it free for longer. I guess the disabled spaces and the unloading spaces, in my opinion, that there's still illegal parking down there. Not entirely, but I think there are plenty of people that are down there and parking there when they shouldn't be doing so. So what we would like is more enforcement, so that we can reduce that. I guess you're never going to stop it completely, but we could reduce that. Damien, have you got anything you'd like to add?
By all means, just a couple of points. Lay-by itself was missed in the TRO, so it should have had some traffic regulations on that one there, but it's an oversight, therefore it hasn't been planned for. So currently you can park there all day long and cause as much of a blockage as you like for free. Which is very nice for you, but if there's a funeral, there's going to be an issue because obviously they can't get to that space, so that's something which we need to attend to quite urgently. So that's one of the small issues. The only other issue which James also aware of is the crossings don't have an audible bleep on them now anymore, and that's because the proximity of the crossings to each other may well alert somebody on the wrong crossing and may set off across the road. Now we've had a lot of interaction with residents who are partially sighted who say that that's not an issue for them. However, the national rules suggest that you can't have the bleep, but if you do have somebody who's partially sighted, if they reach underneath the box, there's a spinning cone. If you feel underneath the box itself, and when it starts spinning, it's safe to cross. So there's actually a tactile piece. So if someone says to you there, how do I know when to cross? If you just feel underneath the crossing blade itself there, there's a spinning cone.
Is that before or after you got run over because they didn't know the spinning cone were there?
Hopefully before.
Oh, good.
So that's
I think they know about the law.
But if you're going to ask you, you know, yeah, if you're going to ask you, that's what they are.
Yeah, so we did have quite a long discussion about traffic lights.
Very long, yes.
Councillor Bellman.
Yeah, mine's a question, and I don't know whether either of you will be able to answer this one. But I was originally told that this scheme would be finished by in spring 2026. Now, noting that spring starts on the 20th of March and finishes on June the 21st before we go in summer, any idea what date?
We asked this question to Alan Jones, and he said spring, and he said it was impossible. It was actually impossible to give an actual date.
So I presume we're taking it that it'll be nearer the 21st of June rather than the 20th
Well, we don't
of
know.
March.
I guess we don't know. I'm not sure that they know any more than we do. A lot depends on the weather as well.
Councillor Lyles.
Can I just say that it took people of Home Faith Market between 30 minutes and an hour and 15 minutes to get from the bottom of Rumford Road last Tuesday to Home Faith Market. So the traffic is not flowing freely at all. And when I came back on Friday night, I don't know what was going on with the traffic lights, but it was backed up all the way up Sood Hill in New Mill, all the way through to the town centre. I believe that the traffic lights in Home Faith are failing on their timers and causing a bit of grief.
Councillor Wilder.
My personal view here is that, like many places, what happens is that you get pressure points in the times of the day and times of the week. And no matter what system you've got in place, you are going to get more traffic at some points than others. My own experience, for what it's worth, is I come down Rocher regularly to the junction with Dunford Road, and I have found it moving more freely most of the time. But that's as good as it gets.
Councillor Nixon.
Traffic in New Mill, with some lights outside on Home Faith Road, across from the entrance to Wales, Woodgate Hill Drive, whatever it's called, near where I live. And the lights haven't been working sometimes, and they've been causing problems there, so it's not to do with the Home Faith lights, it's to do with the lights in New Mill for the roadworks by the bus stop.
Councillor Green.
Yeah, all very interesting discussion, but I've read the letter from
Steve Mawson, and I'd like to know what further actions people are proposing, if any, that this council can realistically take.
Councillor Davis, before we, sorry, to go back a step, can I ask a question to the ward councillors? So I went into a few businesses on holiday the other day, well last week, and they said they've noticed less takings since the road closure. Is there any more support those guys can get down there? Or I've asked a question. Either of the ward councillors in the area.
There is some stuff on here that does talk about things that they can get help with. In terms of business rates.
Right.
Yeah.
Councillor Wilson.
I think it'd be nice to get a bit more clarification about the end date. I mean, I understand we can't be setting tablets of stone, but allegedly the rumour is from the contractors that this won't be finished until summer. Now, if the contractors are saying that's either they're wrong and they shouldn't be saying it.
Well, I just wonder who's saying that.
Or we need to correct it.
My next scrutiny meeting, so
Councillor Firth.
I think basically we could sit here all night talking about Holme Firth and just get nowhere at all. First of all, if you want to find out what's wrong with Holme Firth, ask the people who come shopping into Holme Firth. Ask the business people who are trying to make a living out of Holme Firth. Because as things are just at present, it is literally going nowhere. There's another 2 businesses shut this last week. We can't stand that every week, because at the end of the day there's going to be nobody comes. And the thing about businesses is when people stop coming because of all this problem, they will never come back. They will never come back. It's easy to get rid of customers. I know that, I'm in a business, dealing with general public, and if you've got to look after those people, and we as a council, or Kirklees as a council, should be well looking after the people who come into Holme Firth and look after the businesses. It could have been done totally different. I was just heard from one of our local councils that Holligate's been closed. That's one of the worst roads you can close off. You close that off and it totally throws everything into Holme Firth. The traffic policemen have got nowhere to go. It's like an emergency road, is that when there's a lot of vehicles in Holme Firth. I don't get this widening the pavements and narrowing the roads down, because it's still at the end of the day, it is the main place where people come down the A628 that want to go into Cheshire and into Derbyshire. They go either up Greenfield Road or up Woodhead Road, always have done. You can't alter that overnight, and if you do, where are you going to send them? You're going to send that M62 via M1. There's no way they're going to send their big vehicles down there with cost of diesel, spying the cab and all this business. They can't afford to do it. So we've got to not only think about the people in Holme Firth, the customers, the business people, we've got to think about the traffic situation. How are we going to control that? This councillor over there says, yes, to the pressure point. I'm not going to disagree with you. But those pressure points are coming far too often, and there's far too many of them. Look, I'm sorry, but that's how it appears.
I guess my point is back to Councillor Green's point, is what as a council do we think we should be doing?
Well, this is the thing that amazes me. I don't know what Kirklees is doing. We aren't doing a lot. We should be doing a lot more as a local parish council. And anybody that says well, it's not to do with us, then as far as I'm concerned, why are we here? Why are we here?
Okay, there's a lot of hands. Councillor Dixon first, please.
I was going to say what we should be doing is try to talk up on it and not be negative about it. I appreciate it, it's not great at the moment. The weather's crap, it's cold, it's raining all the time. That's not good. January and February are probably the worst 2 months of business that any business will have at any time of year. So like, it is bad at the moment. The weather has been especially bad this year in terms of rain and things like that. I ain't been down to Holme Firth that much, and I'm normally down every other week for a bit of shopping and doing bits and pieces. But we should be trying to be positive about it and encourage, like we are doing with the videos that we've been sharing on social media and things like that. And come this spring, when the weather picks up and the events start, like the folk festival and things like that, Holme Firth will start getting a lot busier. And once the works are finally finished, I think that it will be busy. And it is sad for some businesses, because some businesses have gone. but I still think that the number of Steve might be able to back me up with this. The number of businesses open in Holme is probably still higher than the national average for the number of businesses, and that's not good still for the people that have closed. I'm very sympathetic towards them, but as a whole, Holme is still doing a lot better than a lot of other areas are. And you know, you're complaining double about it, but when you were councillor, there were loads more empty shops, and it was full of charity shops and things like that, and it was a lot emptier then when I first joined the council 20 years ago. Holme's thriving a lot more than it was doing then.
Which part of you just dropped off, Tom? Because there's a lot of charity shops in Holme now.
I'm going to okay. Councillor Morgan, you had your hand up now. Please speak.
I just want to move on because I'm finding this quite unpleasant.
I was going to suggest that if anybody's got any other suggestions for things that we could do, please put your hand up, but I'm going to limit this to the next 2 or 3 people. Councillor Bellman.
Can I suggest that we go back to Clare Place and we try to get an absolute finish date? Because as it's just been mentioned, that there is upcoming events in spring, and obviously that is going to have a massive impact if this is still all up in the air and roads are closed on them events. So I think we need to know what impact is going to happen if it's still as it is. And I think that's just the basic easy question.
Yes, Councillor Ryan.
Just to counter some of the negative, counter two negative points that have been raised, our footfall figures for this last week is higher than it was 2 years ago, and our vacancy rate is half the national average and a third of the regional average.
So there are positives, but I do take the point that maybe if we could get, I think what I would like to do, hearing everything that anybody said, and by all means chip in later online if you wish to say something or via email, but I think what we could do is get a list of the events that are coming up and then ask the council again for a potential end date due to the impact that that could have on some of those events.
Can I just say that I was at a planning meeting for the Arts Festival that always takes place in midsummer, and they're already planning for 2 contingencies. They hope that the square will be open and it will be fantastic if they can use that, but if not, so they are planning. The festivals that I'm aware of are planning.
Councillor Davis, I'm going to let you end this conversation if that's okay.
Would it be worth either us putting something on our website or a document out there with links to the support that businesses could either apply for or seek, if there is a few different things they could do for support?
I would assume that the businesses are aware that these schemes are in place, but I don't know, Gemma, what's your view on that?
It would be easy enough to do if I had all the information in one place. I can make a page for it. That's not difficult at all.
Thank you, we'll do that. No more. And is it something urgent or something that hasn't been said? Councillor Whitelaw.
This is about HVT. Big business organisation, which is not only self-supporting, really helpful to each other, but also being very, very appreciative of all the things that we've said that we can do. And it is about the art of the possible here, things that we actually have some control over. So doing things like the promotional videos has been really well received. And I remember, Donald, last time we were having this conversation, you were talking about some businesses who were not really engaged and people who you've been talking to. And I wondered whether you'd got that list of people who need to be added to that group, because it's a growing, really helpful.
You get your list.
Yeah, that would be really helpful.
It's growing longer every week.
Thank you. I'm going to bring that discussion to a close, if that's all right. Move on to item 175, Kirklees Local Plan Review. Mayor, do you want to give us an update?
Yes, I'll just quickly, I'll just focus on the fact that we've organised a couple of community consultations. The dates are there. This consultation is not about the Kirklees Local Plan update, but it is about the recently published National Planning Policy Framework, which, as its name suggests, sets the framework for all the planning decisions. There's been a fair amount of publicity about some of them, but there's some changes that are upsetting people. There's things about the infrastructure, the way that large infrastructure developments are going to be handled. And there's also the issue about the green belt and grey belt issue as well. So we've organised these two events, one towards the north of the area, one towards the south of the area, and they'll take the form of an introduction really about the changes to the NPPF and specifically how it will impact on the Holme Valley. And then we will open to discussion from those the public who are there. So it's open for everyone. Initially we were wanting to attract residents associations, or those groups that represent a specific area, but it's open to everybody, individuals, just as individuals or to any groups. So it's been publicised fairly widely, and I thank Gemma for having produced a flyer which has gone out pretty widely now. So we've no idea how many people will turn up. There are four of us on the organising committee, including Councillor Whitelaw.
Just a couple of things, if I may. So, first of all, the flyer has been shared on all the local community Facebook groups, but if it'll get put up again, and I'll make sure that I do the ones that I'm in contact with. But if people see them, if you can please share them and like them, that gets them, it gets them up the list, so to speak. And for those of you who are a bit one step removed, if you like, from what's going on here, if you do a search on the Society of Local Council Clerks, they've done a 26-point key takeaway points from what is happening here, the implications of it, and it's really quite useful as a starter, because the 160-page planning document is not, bedside reading really. On the other hand, you want a starting point, don't you? And then something that you can dig into.
Councillor
No. Could you share a link to that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Anybody got any other comments they'd like to make?
I just invite everyone to turn up and come and find out what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think this is very far-reaching. It's going to have an impact on everyone, and particularly on the whole valley. So, it might not be able to change too much, but I think we ought to be aware of it.
Yeah, thank you.
But some of it is really quite positive,
Yeah.
which is interesting. It's not all negativity.
Moving on, membership of the Finance Management Committee. Councillor Dixon.
I thought with Councillor Holme being absent from the council for a period of quite a while, and she was quite a key member of the Finance Management Committee. So it made me think I might fancy standing for a bit on the committee in her place while she comes back.
I think seeing as you're running the IT policy stuff within the Finance Management, that's a good suggestion there.
I hadn't thought about that one. We can go with that as well.
All in favour of Councillor Dixon? Can I just confirm, Councillor Dixon, are you proposing that until Councillor Collins returns, or as a full-time thing?
Well, full-time thing. Right. It's only a term day, isn't it? And when we do the committees again, so see how we go.
Thank you. Moving on, 177 statement from the Holme Valley Land Charity.
Yes, so a request was received from the Holme Valley Land Charity for a statement from the Parish Council with reference to funding arrangements for home for exhibits in Holme Library. And so the statement that you've got in your pack was put together with some discussion with Councillor Wilson and others as well. And it's just to note.
Noted.
Okay, thank you. Next thing, item to note is the grant evaluation regarding Home for Pride grant in 2025, which was approved at Council in May 2025.
It's just to know, it's come here, usually it would go to F&M, but it's come here because it was full council that approved the grant.
Okay, thank you. Town of Culture competition.
Yes, so there's been some correspondence about this. If you follow the link, you'll know more about it. Firth Forward will be the lead organisation in assembling a bid, and I know I emailed all councillors regarding this. Councillor Blacker has suggested that the council notes this initiative and its general support for it.
Can I speak a little bit further, because I was invited to the meeting with the Holme Arts Festival, and they did have an initial meeting, and they do want to proceed because there are so many benefits to this. Because in the first instance, you have to do a short application, an expression of interest, and then if you get through this stage, you will be given £60,000 to put forward your proposal. And Bev, who runs the Arts Festival, is the director of the Arts Festival, is very used to doing these kind of bids, and she is willing to work with other groups to do that. The main thing that people would say is the big benefit about this is that it brings all the different groups to work together. So the effect on the community is that partnership between the very many different groups. The Arts Festival, the Folk Festival, the Film Festival, but also the climate action groups, all the different groups, Holme Forward, have to work together to present it, and it brings such pride in the towns. You know, the town, we've had a city of culture, and the impact that had has been massive. So this is a new initiative, and there will be a lot of competition, but the benefits, even if you don't win, are quite significant. So I think we should definitely, I don't think there's any way we could take the lead on this because we've got too many other things happening, but I do think we should be involved and supportive of it.
Councillor Ryle.
If I could just echo what Jenny has been saying, I think it's a really brilliant project that Holme Firth should be getting engaged in. We have talked about it in Cabinet and the council. The council are engaged with this, and they have a role, I think, in sort of like holding the money type thing. But they're very keen for all the towns to get involved, and I think they're pretty favourable actually because of the vibes on Holme Firth, because Holme Firth in particular, it has all the festivals, it has lots of events already going on. There's lots of different communities that can come together, and as you say, if you get communities to come together, work together. And one of the things about this bid as well is that it's not going to cost the towns large amounts of money. They're not going to have to put forward thousands and thousands in order to get that bid, because again, as Jenny said, then you've got this expression of interest, and if you get through the expression of interest, then you can have money towards putting forward the bid. So I would say, I mean, it's not for the parish council to organise, but there's lots of ways in which we can support them, I'm sure.
I mean, it is only an item for noting, but I would guess that as a committee we feel that the parish council should be supporting any bid. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Council training. Councillor Whitelaw.
Well, those of you who've got nothing better to do will have read my training report. And I took the view here that training is not just about going and having instruction about how to do something, it's about how you understand things and learn about stuff as well. So when this opportunity came up to go to this Nature's Future work that the University of East Anglia are running in conjunction with Nature's England? I forget the name. Anyway, I thought I'll pop along. And it was absolutely first class. It was an object lesson in how to run a session where you've got lots of people coming from different walks of life, but who have a common objective, if you like. So I suppose all I'm saying is, if there are opportunities for you to engage in something that you think, I'd like to know a bit more about this, and I'd like to network a bit more, find out about what other organisations are doing that impacts on what you're doing or what we're doing, then if you've got the time and the inclination, I would heartily recommend it.
Thank you. Gemma?
Just say thank you to everybody who came to the social media training the other day, and I will circulate the feedback form, and they will go into the next full council meeting. I know there was a couple of you that really wanted to make it and couldn't, so I did take a video. There were some sort of fairly personal stories shared during the session, so I'm not going to publish it online. So if anybody does want it, please just drop me an email to request it, and I'll figure out a sort of secure link or something for it.
Okay.
Thank you, well organised.
Noted. Thank you, Gemma.
Some funny chats.
Item 181, future of local democracy. Councillor Whitelaw.
Well, this was one of those things, you know, you find things come across your desk, so to speak, that you think, hang on a minute, this is going to have implications for us. But I'm really happy to take Jen's advice on this one, as he's noted there, that this is not for us to deal with now, but it's a sort of whether I think.
Yeah, because the English devolution and community empowerment bill, that's still progressing through Parliament, and there may be further amendments made. So we don't know yet when the provisions of the Act will come into force, and indeed what those provisions might exactly be. And when it does come into force, I'm assuming that YLCA will offer training in due course.
Thank you. Noted. Moving on, item 182, the draft meeting schedule for council year 26-27.
Yeah, so just to say about this, it can always be amended and brought back. I'm happy to have any typo errors pointed out to me. You might notice as well that sometimes we've scheduled a planning meeting immediately before a full council one. We tried to leave the week before full council free, but it was just in order to have the planning meetings sort of sensibly spread through the year. That's why we've done that. So obviously it would mean that those particular planning minutes wouldn't then be available for full council because it wouldn't be enough of a gap. But we've done that. It largely reflects this year's current schedule, but if anyone can see any glaring errors or thinks there's a problem with it, by all means say now, or if you let me know, then amendments can be made.
Councillor Wilson.
Planning 1 and 2, should one of those be Zoom?
2. What are you referring to, Andy?
No, we alternate, don't we?
You
Planning
Can I?
meeting face to face, and then Zoom.
It was deliberate.
It was deliberate, was it?
It was, yes. So I think because planning 1 is before annual council, and the committee might change. So you need your first one to be a full committee.
Okay.
It's just the way it worked out.
Anybody got any further comments you'd like to make on that? Okay. Everybody in favour of that proposal then? At this point in time, obviously we'll make changes. Anybody against? Okay, thank you. Item 183, draft safeguarding policy.
Yeah, so we've had some contact with the local authority designated safeguarding officer in November, and from that contact, the LADO has indicated that we should have a safeguarding policy and procedure in place as soon as possible. Now, we're not a principal council, we're not the Section 11 responsible council, as it were, but it's just really about following the advice that we're given, and as that's what the LADO has suggested, there is a draft safeguarding policy for you to consider, and as I've said in the narrative, you may consider approving the documentation as it is. You might want to delegate it to a committee for further scrutiny, or appoint a working group to refine it for a future council meeting. Personally, it's a clerk, my professional advice to you is approve the draft policy, even if you're then sending it to another committee for scrutiny.
Much as we did earlier with the IT council. Yeah. Councillor Black.
Yeah, I agree with that course of action, but it's the right thing to do. I think it does need to be looked at though, because there are some provisions in there which are actually not relevant to the parish council. So, and yeah, I mean, this is something I do know something about. So I think that's referring it to work group, and I'll be happy to be part of such a working group.
Councillor Bailey?
I'm certainly in favour of us having a policy and procedure. It's crazy that we didn't have one beforehand, and could certainly accept that perhaps it needs some tweaking and so on. But I'd like us to go further. It shouldn't just be about having a policy. It should be about us being proactive in terms of our safeguarding responsibilities. We are responsible for example, for the public toilets in Holme. So in terms of sort of vulnerabilities, in terms of places that we have an interest in, that could be particularly vulnerable, and I think we need to think about it. I'm not saying that we don't police it, so there are things we can do in terms of signs that we put up in there to help safeguard people, promote safety, ask for Angela notices and so on to go up. There are things such, we give out thousands of pounds to organisations through grants who all declare on their forms that they work with vulnerable groups. How much of an interest are we taking that? So I think there is more that we can do other than just having a policy and procedure.
Okay, so the proposal on the table at the moment is to implement a draft safeguarding policy, but then have a working group to look at going through that draft policy and refining it. Does that working group need to be part of another committee, or can it sit with full council?
It could fit into FNM, but it could also just come to full council.
Right, okay. Have we got anybody who would be interested in being part of that safeguarding team? Councillor Green, are you saying yes you would, or are you just...
That was the question you asked.
I am saying I would. Councillor Bailey, Councillor Black, Councillor Stewart. Okay. All those in agreement with those people forming the working group to look at the safeguarding policy? Thank you. Moving on, 2526-184, the Civic Preparation for Vision meeting. Councillor Holmes.
Okay, well, you'll remember at the last full council meeting it was agreed that a working party should be set up with the parish council and the trustees to work more closely with the architects, because it is us, the parish council, that have that contract with them, with the architects, yes. So we did have our first meeting on the 6th of January, and Andy Wilson kindly checked that we were following the correct procedure for all the guidance for the parish council working with working groups, and one of them is that I report back to this meeting. So what was agreed at that meeting was that Dawn would remain the main contact for ongoing maintenance, and I would be the agreed main point of contact with the architect with the vision. But for me, it's very important that those two things work closely together, because I think the architect did stress that maintenance and redevelopment run parallel with each other. It's not a matter of getting the repairs done and then putting the vision on top of that. So, so that was what was agreed, and then we also reviewed our contract with the architect, and there are 9 different clauses, steps to work through in our agreement. The first one was the client workshop that we had in August. The second was the design proposal, and the third is the client workshop when the design is presented, and that is what is happening tomorrow. So to me it seems really important that as many of us as possible come tomorrow, because you've all had a chance to look at the design that was sent out before Christmas actually, and it was in the appendix today. This is certainly not the final design, but it is the time when we really do have to express our concerns, our amendments, our support, to say what we think of that proposal. I mean, I don't think it's perfect by a long way, but I think there are some positives in there, but we have to express them. We have to make it known what we want for the future of the community. And things that I think we should be considering is, will the vision be good for the community? That's the priority. And it's for the future as well. So we've got to think about, you know, a growing population with more sophisticated aspirations as what they want from a community hub. So we do have to think about its effect and its role in the community. And referring back to that first item on the agenda today, we've got to think about whether the plans meet the needs of the parish council. First in terms of a meeting space and in terms of office space. I'm always shocked at how effectively 3 people manage to work in that tiny little space. So I don't think, looking at the plans, that all those needs have been fully met, but it's up for you to, you know, it's not just my voice, it's got to be everybody's voice that's heard at that meeting tomorrow. So I do want everybody to have a good look at those plans and prepare for that meeting tomorrow. And my big question that I'm going to ask is how that programme of work will be affected by the vision. Because the full council have already agreed to that programme of work. So we've got to be very aware of how those two things come together. What else have I got to say? Yeah, the building improvements are so it's the building that's a priority for tomorrow, but Tim is also bringing along a funding expert, because as soon as we start looking at those plans, everybody thinks, yeah, that's all very well, but where's the money going to come from? And so there is an expert on this who has helped similar heritage buildings find good ways of raising the money. So she is going to come and outline briefly how she thinks we can proceed. Dawn's very much in support of this. She says, you know, the sort of funding she's been putting forward is for much smaller projects. So, you know, a lady called Karen, I've forgotten her last name. Anyway, I can't remember her name, but she'll be at that meeting tomorrow, so we can ask questions about the funding at that, and we can decide whether we want to use her services much longer term than just, she'll introduce what she can do tomorrow. So, further to that as well, I want us to think about how the vision will affect the lease. So I do know that the lease working group have done some fantastic work, so thank you to them for all the work that's been going on. There's lots that's great about that, but there is some things that I'm concerned about, that some aspects won't hold if we proceed with the vision. The ones that I'm aware of are the repairs in the, it's the terms of, heads of terms? Have I got the right expression? Heads of terms. The repairs section, that we agree to those proceeding without any consultation with the parish council. And I think if we've got to make sure that they marry well with the vision. We don't want to have all these, the windows reglazed and then find that, you know, that's not relevant in the building that's going to take place a year later. And also in the side letter, the programmes of work and the governance and partnership, those are things that I think need looking at. So, I mean, I was going to suggest that there was possibly, if I could ask the lease working group to have one more meeting to look at those things that are, for me, a cause for concern.
I think a couple of points that I'd like to just raise, if I can speak. One is I'd like people to go into tomorrow with an open mind on this. And let's let the architect explain why they come up with what they come up and the reasons for it, rather than just maybe thinking of our own particular little idea. Well, that'd be the first thing. I think your concerns about the maintenance of the building, the architects recognised this a long time ago, and they've said, obviously, if the two clash or interact, then they'll take that into account. There's clearly no point doing a repair on something that we're going to rip out and replace. They're very much aware of that.
I think the
they're not
architects
mainly, the work that they're doing at the moment on the repair really is sort of emergency type repair. It will have to be done. And I think for this next year we'll probably be the same. So there's no immediate issue with that.
I think I do agree with that, but what the condition report doesn't do, it doesn't itemise the sequencing, so I'd like a little bit more information on that about the sequence of repairs. It says which is a priority, A, B and C, but it doesn't list them sequentially enough for my simple brain to be able to take in what the next steps are. So, and one of the things that I noticed in the lease, it says that the parish council will be responsible for repairing the boiler if it stops working. But in the vision, there's doing away with the boiler and having heat pumps and other sources of heat. So those things that are written into the lease need looking at. That's all I'm saying. I'm not a lease expert, but I do want, you know, when we're on the point of signing a 35-year lease, so I think we've got to make sure that we're not saying we agree to something that will very quickly become irrelevant.
Jenny, when you write a lease, you write it at the time.
Yeah.
So you can't say we'll fix the heat pumps if the heat pumps aren't in. You can amend the lease as the journey goes. It's not a solid lease for 35 years. They can be amended.
Yeah,
so don't worry too much about that.
Yeah, but there are some specific things that I think, well, I'd appreciate somebody looking at them from, that I would.
Councillor Whitehall.
I think it'd be useful for people to know that the working group is meeting on Thursday.
Yes.
Post the...
Yeah, I've got that. Yeah.
So if there are things that people, you know, you've gone to the meeting tomorrow, or maybe you've not managed to get to the meeting tomorrow, but you think, hang on a minute, what about X, Y or Z? To feed into that group, so that we make sure we don't miss things that people think are really important.
Absolutely. You know, that, again, if anybody can't make the meeting tomorrow, please let me or anybody in the working group or anybody know that what your thoughts are, so that because our meeting on Thursday, we're meeting on the 5th immediately after, so that we can do a response to that presentation. But I absolutely agree with you, Andy, that do go to that meeting with an open mind and ready to think about all the things that are
Councillor
proposed.
Yeah, you've mentioned something about you've got a concern with something in the side letter. So, yeah, happily organise a working group meeting and we'll look at what your concern is.
Right.
If long as you let me know what your concern is, or I don't know whether Jen's managed to take a note, because that didn't.
Well, the two ones were the number 3, the programme of works, and 7, governance and partnership.
Right, okay. Can have a look at that.
Thank you.
Just, but on the lease, I have to agree with what Councillor Lyons has just said. The lease is actually up for, it will be reviewed, I think it's every 3 years, I can't remember what we were going to put in.
Right.
So it will actually, you know, it's more like a working lease rather than just this is it for the next 35 years.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody got any other points to add to it? Okay, thank you for that. Moving on, the slide 5 updates from the communication and engagement working group.
Not loads to report back on this one. There's a couple of things that I wanted to mention here. Is that last time council approved ideas around making the annual parish meeting something a little bit bigger. So we've got to the point where I'm starting to put together an invite list of people to invite, and there will be grant recipients from the last 2 years to come to a sort of networking reception. We'll ask sort of maybe 3 or 4 speakers in that time. So I will have the list of everyone that's received a grant. But if anybody has any other suggestions of groups that they'd like to invite that we've worked with but haven't necessarily had a grant in the last couple of years, if you could let me know. I'm hoping to get that invite out probably back end of next week, I would say. The other thing is that we've been making a contribution to Huddersfield Hub every month for the last year, and it's sort of time to renew our agreement with them if we want to. They did send me some stats about reach. So at the moment we pay them £200 a month, and that is to have a Home Valley news page. So we can put in our own stories, and they're very good about putting anything that we're promoting. Certainly a lot of consultations and things like that I've sort of asked them to put through, and they go through. But it's also a sort of place to put other news about things that are going on in the valley as well. So it's all in one place for residents, which has been quite nice. They did send me some stats. They get they average 150,000 page views a month, which is loads. And they have in the region of when they do send things out through social media outlets across lots of different social media platforms, ones that we don't use even, and they estimate there's about 850,000 views across that in a month as well. So massive reach, much bigger than we can get up to on our own. So that was just a little bit about what we're going to get for the money, really. So really just to ask whether you want to continue that relationship for another year as council. Somebody else will have to propose it because I can't propose it.
All those in favour?
I'll propose it.
Yeah. All those in favour?
Right.
Anybody got any other questions for Gemma?
Right.
Thanks, Gemma, as usual, for doing a brilliant job. Thank you very much. Right, Stephanie Committee. We're now moving on to agenda item 187, reports from Kirklees Ward councillors. Can I invite Councillor Greaves to speak, seeing as he's got a document he's put into the agenda?
So that's the main one. There's a couple of other updates to give, but good news is that Kirklees Council has had a funding settlement from the government that's actually increased the money coming in. The downside is, as usual, it's not quite what it seems on the press release. So there's a big expectation that year on year there'll be a maximum increase in council tax on residents. There's also plans into that, the fact that there'll be the increase in business rates. Because we've been waiting for it for so long, so of the 146 announced, roughly 50 million is coming from the government. But because we've been waiting for it so long, about 20 million of that was already planned into the budget in terms of being expected. So that leaves, if you like, 30 million. It should be noted that actually that's more or less the same amount as now is going to be saved on the pension contributions, which will be something that will probably impact upon the parish council as well when its contribution rates are reviewed. But West Yorkshire Pension Fund contributions following sterling investment performance, they're going to drop by 7 million a year. So roughly, there's 30 million of unexpected new money coming to Kirklees. About 15 million that's ring fenced, 15 million is flexible. But you could argue that actually it's the reduction in the pension contributions that's actually given us the cash boost. But whatever, there's a bit more money in the pot, and it's the first time for a long time. But there are an awful lot of calls on how that money can be used, that's for sure. I think one of the takeaways would be to have, I don't know whether West Yorkshire Pension Fund have been in touch with the Clanking team about contribution rates. I'm aware of lots of other bodies getting them, and they're all showing a reduction. Obviously it depends upon the size of your staffing and the payroll as to how much they're saving you. So Kirklees is 7 million. I imagine Holme Valley Parish Councils will be a much smaller amount, but nonetheless a reduction of a couple of percent on payroll, which is always a bonus. Four other bits of news. So one was just to pick up on a bit of work that Gemma were doing, which is the Smithy Place Bridge at Brockholes. So that old Packhorse Bridge, the stones have been pushed over into the river. We've been asking and asking and asking. Highways have agreed to do it. We've been to Conservation to get them involved. Conservation have really encouraged Highways to do it. It's planned to go in, but nobody will give us a date. So we keep pushing from all directions. So if you can give a push and a prod as well, that would be welcome. Just on that pedestrian crossing point, this comes up quite often, but it never comes up from anybody with a sight disability. It all comes from people who are wanting to speak on behalf of somebody with a sight disability without ever really having spoken to somebody with a sight disability. So 23 years ago, we moved from having the beeps to the vibrating cones. And that's been the standard for as long as I can remember. There's various reasons for why they moved away from it, but there's the antisocial bit out of hours, so sometimes the beeps were switched off at 9 o'clock, which doesn't really help. The cone helps everybody, it's sighted so you can access it from a wheelchair, and there's no noise disturbance with it. And perhaps you should also think that maybe there are some people with profound disabilities where they've got sight and hearing impediments, so having something where they can have a physical contact with it, that's why the changeover was made. Just going back to the planning framework, I think it'd be really helpful for everybody to get their heads around exactly what the actual full legal definition of the grey belt is, because it's a massively broader scope than was initially presented. So initially it was talking about previously developed sites in the green belt. Well, that's one head. The second head, and this is the one where we're seeing speculative applications coming in right now, is it also applies to any bit of land in the green belt where it can be argued it is not critical to the purposes of protecting the green belt. That more or less opens up the door to anything within that green belt fringe or near to any kind of area that has had some kind of activity before. So not just a previous industrial site, but all around that previous industrial site, all around the fringes of everywhere where you could argue that actually that field in that area doesn't really do anything because there's houses on two sides, so why not just fill that in? We've seen applications, we've had 2 in Holme for single dwellings. The first one was rejected and I'm hoping the second one won't be as well. But nobody really knows the whole thing about grey belt's not really being tested to where it goes to the extreme. But that door has been opened, and what the reality of planning is that people will charge at that open door, and until we know exactly, until we get some parameters from the planning inspectorate and from high court cases as to where the limits actually are. It is far broader than was initially suggested, and I would have said for our area, you could see some unwanted developments that previously would have been classed as inappropriate might actually be able to get through on that. And then the 5th bit of news is, and this is a bit of a fingers crossed one, I made contact with Post Office Limited about the lack of postal service provision in Holme, asking whether or not they would now provide the van. So the previous position was they'd like a permanent post office in Holme, but they couldn't find any takers. And whilst that process was ongoing, they would not deploy the van, which is unhelpful. So Brockholes gets the van, but Holme doesn't. So I asked if they'd reconsider that, to be told that they are going to refresh the application process with enhancements, and that there is a potential person looking into it. But what happened last time was people people who perhaps thought it was helping the community to pile on lots of expectations and responsibilities to the one candidate that came forward who we could have had a post office and Holme still open, but he was very much scared off out of the village by the list of expectations, obligations and responsibilities, none of which are anything to do with a modern post office, that were pushed on him. And he very much felt that he wasn't wanted by some. And those people, none of them were elected people, none of them, who thought they were helping, were the main reason in my book why we don't have a post office in Holme anymore. And why we ended up with somebody who did say that they would do that and then failed to do it and then went bankrupt, and now we have no post office. So I'm hoping that we can just leave the post office and any applicants to it, and if anybody is aware of anybody who's wanting to interfere again, to either just ask them not to, or to let me know and I'll speak to them, because we're very much like a post office back in Holme, and the contributions in the past were the reason that we didn't get one.
Councillor Graves? Anybody else got anything to say at this point? Councillor O'Reilly?
Thank you first of all to Councillor Greaves for acknowledging that there is extra money coming into Kirklees, which is great. But you are correct, it's not the amount of money that went out. It didn't come from the council. It wasn't in our interest for you to do that. And it does involve council tax, and it also involves business rates as well. In terms of the council tax, then that will increase 2.99%, with an additional then 2% earmarked to fund social care for older people and residents with disability. It is very difficult for the council not to increase because of inflation and also because of growth and increased pressures, whether that's adult social care, whether that's children in care, children's services. So there is that pressure there. And most councils will be putting up their council tax. I think it will be difficult to find any, many of them are willing to, but I think it will be difficult for councils not to be increasing their council tax. It's also really good because this is a 3-year package. So instead of the councils not being able to plan ahead, they can now, at least to some extent, they can plan ahead with this 3-year package. Kirklees has high levels of deprivation, and it is really good to see a real increase in funding, and we have done well to get that. Some councils have been disappointed by their funding, the funding that they are getting from the government. So we have done pretty well. We're sitting there in a good place. And we would like more, because we know that there is a need for more. But this is a step change. This is different to what things have been over the last few years, with local government being starved of cash. So this is a positive move going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bellamy.
Yeah, firstly on Packhouse Bridge, I want to thank planning for writing that letter in, because as Councillor Greaves has said, I think any backing on that is an absolute good move, because we tried and tried. yeah, with regards to planning and the grey belt, yeah, it is an absolute nightmare. And yeah, Councillor Cruz is right. Kirklees are receiving applications upon applications upon applications that are just saying, oh, but this is grey belt. So they are definitely absolutely testing it just to see what they can get through. And I don't think it helps the fact that the local development plan also is not right and it's not finished, because they'll try anything, well, big developers, just to say, well, you know, you need the houses, sort of thing. So yeah, it's definitely worth keeping an eye on that. And I think that's about it, to be honest. I can't think of anything else apart from I've got scrutiny, and I think it's March, and we're coming for a visit to Holme to look at all the works through scrutiny. So I thought it was pretty
Sorry,
warm.
can you say a bit more about that? What to do what?
The growth and regeneration scrutiny panel have the Holme works. We have loads of, we have the Huddersfield blueprint as well on our panel, and they're at this moment in time arranging a visit for the councillors and co-optees that sit on that to come and have a look at how the works in Holme have progressed, so we can scrutinise.
So this is councillors plus co-optees, did you say?
Plus the co-optee that is on that.
So who might that be?
I can't remember his name off the top of my
It's
head.
just one person,
Yeah, I
okay.
can't remember his name off the top of his head, and he's actually been ill, so it'll be the councillors that are just on that panel.
When you're looking at that in terms of regeneration and so on, could you ask some questions about tourism?
Absolutely.
I know that there is a post has been created now as a tourist officer. I really welcome some questions coming in. I'd love to give some answers.
Do you want to email me what you want to know? And I'll quite happily, bring that up in scrutiny.
Thank you, councillors, for the update. Moving on then, 188, Home First Public Space Protection Order.
Yeah, I know we've had in previous meetings discussed that these signs have gone up and that this public space protection order is in place. So we've had a request, can we publicise the protection order as and when possible on the Holme Valley Parish Council notice boards. I don't think there's anything particularly contentious about that. It'll only go up when we've got space on our notice boards and so on, but I'm just keeping you informed.
Councillor Ramsby.
I hope we're not going to see a proliferation of these around the valley, because it really does send out an appalling message. That if every street corner you go around, you see a message saying no fighting, no drinking, no loitering, no dog fouling, no this, no that, no the other. And yeah, I hope, you know, where applicable, yeah. But I would hate to see the valley littered with these signs as if it's a general election.
Councillor Ramsby took the words out.
Oh, right, okay. Did anybody else have the hand up? Sorry.
Well, I mean, maybe it is controversial. You don't want me to put them on the notice board, which is also fine.
I don't mind one going on our notice board as and when there's a space.
We have got a notice board near the car park, near the bus station.
Yeah.
When we're going to tell people no drinking and no loitering at the food festival.
Take it down that weekend.
Okay. Right, Councillor Stewart.
No temporary structures. So the cheese shops, gazebo, empty thing that's gone up. Are we not allowed to have that there anymore? Oh right, do they need to? They can if you have planning. Oh. And we're not allowed to feed the ducks down by the river. Not the toby because of the rats.
Yes, that's.
I know rats. Gosh, they're bigger than the ducks.
Councillor Holme.
I think we should always have something much more positive and interesting to put on our notice boards.
Yeah, I didn't know.
And only when there is nothing more interesting. And it could be quite small and quite happy, but I do think it's a very unwelcoming. It doesn't make people feel welcome on that.
drinking.
In Colne Valley?
Yes, no drinking, no street drinking.
Well, we can't do that here because we do loads of street drinking with loads of festivals.
No noise.
So, have we got a view as to whether or not we should encourage these signs to go up or not?
In our notice board, yeah, go for it.
Pardon?
In our notice board, in the space, yeah.
Yeah, just make sure you fill it up.
Exactly.
I think the view I'm hearing is that if we put maybe one up,
Yeah.
but last choice, yeah.
It doesn't specify how big it has to be, does
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Can we not just put the QR code up and then nobody will look at it? Sorry, Councillor.
I just want to check, there's no legal requirement for these to be off for the PSPO to be valid.
Yes, there are some, it's a request to us because we've also got notice boards, so that's.
They'll be on the outer perimeter work of bedroom, that's where the problem.
So the PSPO signs are put on the perimeter of any area which is that one, so when you walk into that area, it advise you that means it's legally enforceable. Any more replicated ones of that one there would be incident specific, so by the rat feeding area, because it's not a duck feeding area, there's no feeding of rats. So, but anywhere else you get, if there are people gathering and drinking and causing a problem, then you expect to find a sign there. So they're quite reactive signs, they don't just put them everywhere to say everything that you can't do this and you can't do that. It's more of it's a reason to respond in that area, to give you some advance notice that obviously it can be enforced. So it's perimeter and just where it's going to be needed at the time. So hopefully it shouldn't be just, you shouldn't just see them everywhere.
Okay, moving on. Items for publicity. Yeah. Have you been doing anything else, Gemma, while you are looking through?
Not especially from this meeting, apart from the no loitering, no drinking signs.
Precept was important.
Yeah, so we'll put something up about the precept. It's the time of year where all of the local newsletters go out, so I do a sort of general explainer of what we do and how the money is spent. Holme Flyer got back to me today, so we should be in the next issue of Holme Flyer as well. We've been trying that for a while.
So, email address?
It did. I think I may have gone to spam last time because it was the same email just as before, but they did reply this time. So I've got a few going out, and they will go out mid-March or beginning end of February. I think most of those go out. I've also got a kind of little running total of things that I've been sitting on until after Thursday, so there'll be some new stories coming out over the next few weeks of just things that are going on around urban nature reserves, democracy in schools, the information about the design guides, all sorts of bits and bobs. And we'll be drip feeding over the next month.
Thank you, Gemma. Right,
Sometimes we actually do finish before.
in that case, I'll call the meeting to close. Thank you, everybody.